Here we go. All right, so we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Drew Stricker.
I'm Laura Fricka.
I'm Will Brown.
And Bethany Blackwood is also with us.
So I chose to read Teach Like a Pirate.
I did as well.
And I read Flip Your Classroom.
I know Bethany read that also. And then Delora, one of our other members, does anyone know if she read the Teach Like a Pirate or the Flip Your Classroom?
I don't know.
Should we try to get Bethany fixed before we keep going?
Yeah. I'll send her a chat.
I thought I'm on it. I don't understand. Okay. Am I there?
Now you're here. We just don't see you.
Oh, okay. Well, I can see myself in the video. Like, it's videoing me, it looks like. That's really weird. But you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. That's really weird that it's not. I'll just, like...
So do we want to start over, or do we want to just go from here?
We can go from here. Is she signed off now?
She said keep going.
Okay.
So if we're looking at some of the questions that we're going to be looking at, the first is to talk about specific passages that struck us as significant. So is there anyone who would like to start with sharing a certain passage that stood out to them?
Laura, I think you and I shared the same tweet from last week. The idea that this is from Teach Like a Pirate. It's far more powerful to swim with your students. They need the benefit of your complete immersion. Now, it is important to point out that he talks about his son learning to swim. He said, I'm suggesting that when delivering first instruction, especially to struggling learners, you need to leave the comfort of the lounge chair or lifeguard tower and jump into the water with your students. So that definitely resonated with me.
Yeah, that definitely stuck out. That's why I chose that as a quote also. And I think the fact that a lot of times when our students are in a lesson, that sometimes we just stand back when we should be participating with them and let them see how much we enjoy the exploring and the creating and sharing also. Right.
Well, a quote that I found in Flip Your Classroom that was pretty impactful. It said, I don't have to go to school and perform 5 times a day. Instead, I spend my time interacting with and helping my students. And I was thinking about that, and I thought that was really important because not only does that give you the individual time with each student, but think about it. When we go and we're teaching the same thing 5 times a day, our day gets pretty monotonous and gets pretty boring, and that kind of kills our creativity in a way. And so I started to see flipping as a way of kind of bringing creativity back into what I do. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me or no?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just can't see me? Okay. Well, that's probably fine. I don't know why that is. Yeah, I also was reading the Flip Your Classroom, and I'm having a hard time finding just one quote that I like. But one of the things that definitely stood out to me was about basically having students become more responsible for their learning, rather than teacher-led classroom that can happen easily. So there's a quote here, page 27. It says, "Some might ask how we developed a culture of learning. We think the key is for students to identify learning as their goal instead of striving for the completion of assignments. We have purposely tried to make our classes places where students carry out meaningful activities instead of completing busy work. When we respect our students in this way, they usually respond." So yeah, I think it's just for me, it's like showing the students that they should be able to be learning and that they should be thinking for themselves while they're learning rather than just trying to sort of get things done. And I think that's pretty powerful when the students are working together and they're having time to really like work through the math. So.
It's bringing that ownership to the student.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
How's that working with the three of you this year, like the idea of ownership of their learning of math? You feel like that's different than in years past?
For me, I would say it is a little bit. It's not as much through, well, I mean, I have two different classes that I'm sort of working on different things from class in. And with the algebra students, algebra 2 students, I haven't gotten really into flipping the classroom as much as I thought I would have, because my curriculum, it's like all problem solving and there's not any like routine problems anyway, so they're challenging enough that like I want the students to be working on them together in class. And it's sort of supposed to be like, not discovery, but like almost the assignments like build on each other and the problems do, so it's hard to like just do a little video to teach them certain things all the time, so I don't do that very much, but it's been a process, but I'm getting them to like talk with their groups and talk with each other, which has helped because then I'm not going to come around and just tell them what to do. I'm going to come around and like ask them a question or help them like ask each other questions or show each other their work. So it's a definite process. But yeah, I'm trying, so it's been fun, but I think it's a work in progress for sure.
One of the passages that I chose was that creative ideas don't come out of the blue. They come from engaging in the creative process. That critical process starts when you ask the right types of questions and then actively seek the answers. What we seek in our life is a direct result of our focus. So the whole idea of creating an engaging classroom, are you asking yourself the right questions? And the book goes on, especially in the second section, talking about all these different hooks that you could use and the questions that you can ask yourself. For example, one of the hooks could be, how can I show my students why learning this content is important in the real world? So it's a question you can ask yourself to help direct your thinking when you're planning your lesson and make sure that it is engaging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
You want to share out any other passages? I know I have mine like all highlighted out. It's hard to choose one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, this is, related, but it's something that I won't say it's impactful, but definitely something that I found interesting on page 32 in Flip Your Classrooms. That we teach in a semi-rural school where it's hard to obtain qualified substitute teachers. And I'm thinking, well, we teach in the middle of Chicago and experience the same sort of issue. So, before we were on air, I was sharing an experience when I was on leave with my baby, and had the exact same kind of experience. So I thought that was kind of interesting that these rural schools are experiencing some of the same issues we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like with the flipping the classroom stuff, I feel like it's pretty like accessible for my students to do. I don't know about for all students. So I've like appreciated the fact that they can really like my seniors where I do flip the classroom for AP Calculus. I've had a lot of things to like work on and improve, but they have said that it's been helpful to at least have the option to like pause and rewind and things like that. So that goes along with like a lot of the things just in Flip with the Classroom that like they said like logistically about why to flip your classroom and how I felt like it was like a perfect time for me to be reading this book because I already started trying to do it kind of on my own, or just like based on talking with Missy and things like that. So it was kind of cool to see just like a few more suggestions, but then see a lot of things like being like validated of like how I'm trying to do it and why I'm trying to do it to help the students out and have more time to really work with the students on the problems. So yeah, I feel like it's an interesting thing. They go into with Flip the Classroom, though they go into like the idea of like flipped and mastery, where students basically are learning at their own pace as well. They just have a list of objectives that they have to do. And that's kind of scary and kind of interesting at the same point. Really like giving kids the freedom. I think there was a quote, I'm trying to find it. Oh, here, it's on 84. We give students the freedom to make both good and bad choices. As the year progresses, students begin to make better and better choices. Because that was talking about like time management and the workload and learning independently and all that type of stuff. What happens if students don't watch the videos right away or things like that. It's kind of an interesting concept. I don't know if I would go full into the flipped mastery with like different pacing and timing, because that's kind of hard for, especially for AP calculus.
Bethany, do you use your own created videos, or do you use a library?
Yeah, I've been making them, so I've been doing like on my Surface. That's been amazing. I'll just put up like a really blank PowerPoint, which is like a few problems that are typed out, and then I'll like screencast and write over it in PowerPoint with Screencast-O-Matic. It was $15, and you can do like real basic editing. And then I put them up on Edpuzzle, so I can actually input questions and really easily see which kids watched them. I finally discovered I'd put like at the end of it, I would put a like, do you have any questions question, so they could put in their questions there. So then when I get to class, because at the first point I wasn't actually like debriefing the videos very well, I kind of just let them start working and then address what problems arose in the groups or as a class, depending on where they were struggling. So trying to like a little bit like the book said about having a debrief time and making the students like try to at least ask a question about each of the videos. So yeah.
I haven't really done much work as far as actually doing the flipping in the class, and unfortunately I just haven't had time. I'm hoping to, after I was reading the Mastery Learning, I was hoping to try something like that with my next unit with Algebra 2. We're going to be doing systems of linear equations. So, but I realized that that's not something I can do, kind of on a whim. It's going to take a lot of preparation.
Yeah, it sounds like so. I mean, it is a lot of work to make the videos, especially for that first month. It was crazy. And then I've like toned down to how many videos I've been doing as well, which has been helpful. But yeah.
One thing that kind of terrified me about the idea of doing this, which I mean they address in the book, is my special needs learners. How is this going to impact the special ed population, and especially because two of my classes are co-taught classes with pretty significant special ed populations in them, and in a couple places in the book they address that, and they say it's special ed teachers love it because they have the content at their fingertips at all times, and they say that the special ed students, most part, kind of latch onto it too. They can pause the video and rewind the video and at their own pace, work at their own pace.
Right.
After reading this, I feel a little more confident in actually trying it.
Yeah, it was really inspiring, like really motivating to like try to do it better and try to work more on it as well. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of challenges, but I think it's just like keeping in mind that like any type of change like this, it takes time. I think they said it takes a couple years to really get good videos and really get your structure down. So it's hard this year for me because I'm kind of trying to figure it all out. And yeah, I don't even know like if I want to change a lot more or just wait till next year to try out different routines and structures. Because it is hard to sort of build up to the kids watching it. With my seniors and AP Calc, it worked okay because they're great kids. They're some of the better kids that we have, obviously. So there were just a couple days where they didn't all consistently watch the video. It was definitely a problem. And then they got on pretty quick.
One thing I noticed from last year is that students don't really realize that you can pause the video, go back in the videos, and they don't realize how to take notes.
Yeah, I know. I definitely realized I need to work with at least my juniors on that. Yeah.
Last year, I had the students watch some Khan Academy videos. That's about it. But this year, I actually showed them, okay, this is how we watch a video. They don't really know. They don't really understand how to watch. It's not a YouTube music video to watch it.
Mhm. Yeah. So that's definitely something I want to like talk about with my students really soon. Now that I've gotten through reading it. What about pirate people? Is there anything that you all wanted to like do based on that book, or ideas you had or something?
Another passage that struck me was, if you haven't failed in the classroom lately, you aren't pushing the envelope far enough. Safe lessons are a recipe for mediocrity at best. The key to failing without quitting is to shift your paradigm to believe that there is no such thing as true failure, only feedback. So that struck with me about thinking back at some of my lessons that were safe, of how I could push the envelope a little bit and take more chances, and that's what I'm working on now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Laura mentioned a minute ago about the hooks, and I think that's really the most beneficial part of the book. So I tweeted this out, but I've implemented a couple of Mozart hooks. So nothing too crazy, but when the kids walked in, we were studying imaginary numbers. I had John Lennon's Imagine play, and Just My Imagination and A Different Day. And I thought that that really set a nice tone. It was on a Friday, so I don't know, I was feeling pretty relaxed myself, but I think it really brought a culture of calm to the kids, and they were more focused than I thought they would be with the music playing. I thought that that would maybe distract them. I was a little worried about trying that, but it worked really well, and I definitely want to use that again. And want to explore some of the other hooks too, like the Picasso, and so I'm asking our department to order some Play-Doh and pipe cleaners, kind of like we had in over the summer at Michigan State, and just have them creatively show what they've learned. I'm excited to try that once I acquire those materials.
Okay, definitely with the hooks, there's a lot that I highlighted there, and that it's going to be a resource that I keep coming back to. That my goal is to try to look at maybe like one a week or two a week, just to get me thinking, and then as I get better with one of them, then try another one. Mm-hmm. And I haven't signed up. I know there's a website that he has that said that there are other resources. So I want to sign up for that and see if all the hooks are already there, just so that there's like electronic copy, or if not, I'm even thinking about just typing them up so that I have them in a Google form or a Google Doc that I could easily refer back to when I'm unit planning and lesson planning.
Mm-hmm. Good idea.
So looking at our next question, what surprised you most? What contradicted your current understanding?
I don't have a direct passage for it. It's kind of just from overall. But I definitely think what struck me or sort of surprised me was that when students were given in their like flipped mastery classroom, meaning every student was working at their own pace, they had videos to watch at home, and then in class they had various activities, but they were responsible for, again, the pacing at which they like did their assessments on the different standards that they were asked to do. So it surprised me that students with that much freedom were actually seemed to be more engaged and much more hardworking, because I would fear in starting that the students would sort of see the flexibility as a reason to not have to work as hard. So I think it was impressive and encouraging to see that it seemed like students responded really, really well to that freedom, because they had more options, I guess, about how to learn and when to show their mastery of the content.
I think that all administrators, whenever you start anything new, are kind of looking for, I guess, the cure-all, I'll say, or the save-all kind of program. And in the book, they talk about their failure rates and how their failure rates were affected. And before they flipped, they had about a 10% failure rate. And while they flipped and went through the process of kind of working out the kinks, they had a 10% failure rate. And afterward, they had a 10% failure rate. I mean, it just goes to show you that you always have that one core group that no matter how much you try, and you're trying, but when you try, there's still that core group that you can't reach no matter what system you work in. Not to say we shouldn't keep trying to reach them, but it's not a cure-all system, I guess.
Did the book say how it affected that other 90%? Like, did they learn more, or retain, like reach more mastery?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You want me to go? I mean, I was gonna say, and you might have something different that stuck out to you. But what stuck out to me was in that FAQ section at the end. They just had a little bit of data on one group of students that was what they would consider a very, very high achieving group. That was kind of the initial, like the group before the flipping started. Then the next year they had a slightly lower group of students just based on their like test scores on the Colorado State exam. But the students then that were flipped, they started a little bit lower. They still achieved but roughly the exact same average scores on all the unit exams. So the flipping it sounds like the flipping caught them up just a little bit. But that's all the data that I remember that stood out to me on that.
Yeah, that's all that I think they had in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they said the flipping works. They didn't elaborate too much more. They tried to keep the book pretty short and sweet.
They also said that they were some of the pioneers. They weren't the only pioneers, but they were some of the pioneers. So there wasn't a lot of research available, at least at the time that they wrote the book, to really quantify one way or the other.
How many classes were flipped?
I mean, the book talks about 2 teachers that worked together in a chemistry class, so I'm assuming that they kind of had like a full load. I'm not really sure. I don't think they mentioned that at any point.
Yeah, I mean, I know they mentioned at some point in time, just like sort of like some like general level chemistry. I don't know if it was honors or regular, and then I think AP.
I know they did regular and AP.
Earth science, and then earth science like later. But I want to say that the first year they might have just done chemistry.
Yeah.
And they took turns making. One would make videos for like AP level, and one would make the videos for the regular level, and then they'd sort of switch off because they did teach both of those classes. But another slightly surprising thing was that they said those students liked the videos better when it was more like 2 teachers having a conversation with each other about the topics, a little bit more informal rather than just like mostly a direct lecture style, which I can see making sense. I'm not really sure how to take that and adapt that to math. My colleague's not fully on board with the videos, though she wouldn't mind. I think she just doesn't have the resources or the time as well. So that was kind of interesting.
Laura, one thing that stood out based on your question was his experience when he was giving workshops, and he said that a woman, and this is pretty common, she said, "It's easy for you, you're creative." And so I think an excuse that sometimes I make for not flipping or not trying some more of these hooks, that and that's exactly what it is, an excuse. It's just a cop-out. And so fighting against that, confronting that idea and statement is something that I've tried to do over time, and anytime I want to take the easy way out.
Another thing that makes me think of is when he was talking about how a lot of times we keep ourselves busy, but what are we keeping ourselves busy with the right things, that making sure that we have time for what's actually meaningful and going to make an impact. And I know, especially a lot of teachers I talk to and myself, it's like, oh, we're so busy doing this and this, but then are we really focusing on the right things? That, yeah, it might take more time to do these type of engaging lessons and get these hooks, but in the long run, when you're having more interaction with the students, that they're mastering it earlier, that you're actually going to save time. And
right.
then one thing that stuck out to me is actually in the first paragraph or in the first page, when he said, we are not passionate about everything we teach. And then he was going on by talking about the different types of passion. He talked about the content passion, the professional passion, and then the personal passion. And so I thought that kind of stuck out, that one thing that we don't really always think about, that there are some topics that we get more into, and then others that we're kind of like, you don't have as many engaging activities. And he was talking about how when there is times when your content, you might not be as passionate about it, that to use like your professional passion, your passion for teaching, to help guide you through those times. Mm-hmm. So that stuck out to me.
Another thing that stuck out in Flip Your Classroom to me is kind of how like the minor changes really are what makes a big difference. Like um, in the book, they talk about not referring to their classes as a classroom, but referring to it as like a learning hub or a learning space. And just in changing that terminology, they said it kind of leaves that baggage of a classroom idea of a teacher standing in front of the room lecturing and imparting this knowledge. It kind of changes it to the idea of, this is a learning space where students come to learn, and it just makes it more student-centered. It's kind of how that small change, it seems like not a big deal, but it ended up being significant.
Is there anything else that we want to share that surprised us? The next question is, what were your main takeaways from the book?
I think I kind of like the last line of the book is just thinking, just to be asking yourself what's best for the kids, then go and do it. And I think just the takeaway is like that it's hard, that it's not going to be a smooth process, which is something that always makes me not fully comfortable. But I can already sort of see the value in like the few small things that I've tried to change in my classroom so far this year. So I think it was just encouraging and rewarding to see. Right, these people were the experts now. They were not the experts when they started. And just thinking about putting our students or putting the kids in the focus, even if it's hard.
And going on with what Bethany said in the last part of the book, he was stating how no content standard in any class at any level is more important than nurturing and building a love of learning. He also went on to say that students will do amazing things if you can design a class and an environment that is positive and empowering. And then let's see, the last thing that kind of stuck out. We want our students who can take what they've learned and intelligently apply it to the real world around them. So those are the main things that stuck out with me that I'm going to use, and then especially keep going back to all of these hooks when I'm teaching.
I definitely took away that changed time, and they talk about that on the same lines of what Bethany is. They talk about that how they weren't the experts in the beginning, and how people view them as the experts. But, they also kind of suggest finding your own path, and you don't necessarily, the book that we read is not a guideline to flipping your classroom. There are some suggestions that they have of things that they've done, and what you want from it, do what you want, and kind of ignore the rest.
Yeah, to do a yes and, kind of building on your theme, one of the quotes was, "Some critics will write Maya Angelou as a natural writer," which is right after being a natural heart surgeon, and that was Maya Angelou's quote. So I really think that kind of gets into this idea of we just have to really work hard to make our classrooms what we want them to be, and taking chances, taking small steps is how you get there. And I felt like that's empowering. Like you, Laura, I'm looking forward to trying more of these hooks. I think that's going to make my classroom a better place.
Mm-hmm. So we've kind of touched on this. What are the implications for teaching and learning?
I think it goes back to probably for learning on the Flip the Classroom, and it sounds like from yours as well, like student engagement, student ownership. I think that's really valuable because I think I already had been realizing when I'm up there teaching, that's not really helping my students learn that much. So if I'm spending too much of my time kind of trying to teach them things and pass on the knowledge, like they're not always getting it. So finding other ways to give students time to work on it and to see how well they're understanding is important. And I think, yeah, when there's something a little bit out of the ordinary, whether it's flipping or just probably it sounds like these hooks, like I think students are going to be more engaged in them. They'll be more interested in trying to really learn.
One of the things for my teaching is this quote that much of your success as an educator has to do with your attitude towards teaching and towards kids. The rest of your success is based on your willingness to relentlessly search for what engages students in the classroom and then having the guts to do it. So that will definitely help shape my teaching, and then the more engagement will affect the students' learning.
I think, Laura, to build on that, I like his idea on page 71, spread the virus. By letting yourself on fire with enthusiasm, you can become a beacon of bliss amidst a bastion of boredom and banality. And he goes on to say that the lessons become incidental. What people receive is your joy. I remember hearing that from my cooperating teacher 14 years ago, and it's absolutely true that how kids often feel about their learning, what they're learning, is just as important or maybe more important than what they are learning. It's focusing on the experience more than the material.
I think that when flipping your classroom, they kind of change the focus from teaching, just standing and teaching, lecturing and things like that, to motivating students. That really was the biggest focus, was motivating students to want to learn the content. Kind of along the lines that all of us are. We're going from that speaking on stage, right, wanting, or guiding students to that want to learn math or want to learn science, whatever we're trying to do.
The last question is, what have you learned? What ideas will you apply to your current context? I feel like we've answered that, but if there's any final thoughts, anything you'd want to, any other quotes that kind of stuck out to you, or anything that's on your mind?
Well, my final thought is that if I know that you guys read other book, but if you are slightly interested in flipping your classroom, that this book is pretty motivating itself. I found it pretty motivating. I do really want to try the objective learning with at least one unit this week, that I can see how it works, and to prove to myself that I can put together a unit like that.
Yeah. I think I'm intrigued to talk with I only have one other math colleague because our school is so small, and we do a lot of things together, and we sort of do targets already. We kind of do, not really standards-based grading, but I've pretty much been the only one of us to think about flipping this year, although she's sort of expressed some interest. So I think I am interested, probably not now because it's right at the end of the quarter right now, but maybe at some point in the future, at least before winter break, to really have a good conversation with her and maybe with the other people in our STEM department who have talked to me a little bit about the flip the classroom and in standards-based grading and stuff since I've been working on this class. So I think that will be interesting because I feel like if I could get maybe the other math teacher on board, maybe then I would be able to try some more things. It'd be kind of good to be a little bit centralized within the department, just because I know I might have that option in my school because it's so small. So I feel like if I had someone else really interested in doing this at my school, it would help me also to be motivated to try even more things. And really, like you said, Will, to get a unit like that, really, really fully set up. Well, at least for my juniors.
Well, you can also find other people who are flipping the classroom and talk with them. So that kind of reminds me of this one that I just flipped to this page. Breaking away, on the other hand, requires a huge burst of energy and enough strength to avoid getting dragged back to the path. So when you're trying new things, that it is hard to put yourself out there and that people are going to critique you, but in the long run that you're doing what's best because you're trying new things and trying to improve the profession.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding it, but he talks about one of his best lessons and how it took years to develop. So I think viewing this as a process, we're not going to get there this year or even next year, and that's okay. I thought that was comforting. And like you guys with Flip Your Classroom, I thought that this book was very motivating. I enjoyed reading it and look forward to trying some more ideas from it.
Good. Could we end the conversation?
Sure. Yeah, and enjoy the rest of your Veterans Day off, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah. Talk soon.